everyone, and welcome to a new Class 66 Rocks review. Now today we're not taking a look at a model truck or a model train, we're actually taking a look at a book which I've recently purchased from eBay. I think it was about £16, something like that. And the normal RRP of it is £25. So I got it quite cheap actually, but it's a very interesting book, and you'll probably see why in a minute. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to show you the entire book, I'm just going to show you sections from each chapter, because it's split into chapters. So without further ado, let's take a look at which book we are having a look at then. So to get it all into the camcorder screen, as you can see, we're taking a look at a hardback book, and it is called North American Railyards Updated and Expanded Edition. It's by a well-known author called Michael Rhodes. So as you can see, it only just fits into the camcorder screen. I've had to tilt the camcorder on the tripod slightly to get it all in. So I've got my arms at the back of the camcorder and my hands at the front. So what we'll do, we'll just open the book up, and as you can see, I'll just have to keep sliding it into view so you can see there. We've got images of all the different yards. So if we just go to the chapters, so what I'll do, I'll just tilt the camcorder slightly and I'll zoom in on the contents page just there. So as you can see, it's split up into different chapters. So chapter 1 is Burlington Northern Santa Fe, which is BNSF. Chapter 2, Union Pacific. Chapter 3 is the Canadian Railroads. Chapter 4, CSX. Chapter 5, Norfolk Southern. Chapter 6, Other Railroads and Yards of Historical Significance. So what we'll do, we'll go to chapter 1 first on page 10. So I'll just zoom back out and I'll bring the book back into view. So as you can see, this chapter focuses on the BNSF, and it's a very interesting read actually. I mean, I'm just going to try and show you bits of it, as I don't want this review to be too lengthy, otherwise I'll be making you all go to sleep. Okay, so as you can see, I'll just have to tilt the camcorder up slightly. This focuses on the BNSF yards, and if we just zoom in now, oops, a bit too far there, I'll just tilt the book slightly, but as you can see, there's a list of all the yards where BNSF operate out of. So we'll just zoom back out a minute, and I'll find a particular one that I could possibly talk about this one. Excuse me if I'm just flicking through the book quick. I have actually read this book. I took it on holiday 2 weeks ago, so I read this after breakfast every morning. So I'm just trying to find a yard on the BNSF which we could actually look at. Okay, so I can't find a favourite yard, so what I'm going to do, we're just going to go back a few pages, and I'm just going to find one particular one. I'm sure there was one in here actually that caught my eye, but I'm not too sure where it's gone now. Okay, right, let's talk about this one then, Galesburg Yard. So Galesburg is in Illinois, as you can, well, you can't see, so I'll just have to zoom the camcorder in and operate it on the tripod for this review. So as you can see there, it's Galesburg Yard in Illinois, and as you can see we have a bit of information about the yard. So obviously American yards have something called a hump. This is where wagons are rolled down a track into sorting sidings, not like we have here in the UK. as you can see there, it has the capacity was 2,500 cars per day. As you'll see, as I'm turning the camcorder around, I've got the tripod handle in my hand, just tilting it slowly. So as you can see, we have a bit of information about the yard there. So what I'll do now, I'll bring the camcorder back up slightly. So if we turn the page, I will show you some images from the book. So as you can see, we've got all different American locomotives on that page. And if I zoom and turn the camcorder on this page, you can see there how we have the sorting sidings and the hump. I'm sure there are auto carriers on the back of this particular locomotive, as you can see just here, these ones. And in the corner there we have some, oops, a bit bad focus. I'll try that again slowly. Ah yes, it's still blurring slightly, but in the back area there you can see we've got two BNSF locomotives. So if we take a look at the information, we can see it's a BNSF number 6104, draws auto racks out of the classification bowl at Galesburg. On the right are the 60 new tracks added in 1995. Several BNSF locomotives are employed on pull-out duty on this chilly morning. So what we'll do now, well before that I'll just actually also mention that at the end of each yard it actually tells you how to get to each of these yards and whether there's an area for the public to view the yard from. I know some of them are quite hard to get to and photograph, but some are quite easy. So what we'll do now, we will turn the page and we will go to the next chapter. So I'll just find the chapter now. Okay, so on to the next chapter. So chapter 2 focuses on Union Pacific, and if I'm not mistaken that is a GE AC 4400 CW. The reason I know this is because I've actually got a HO model scale of this particular locomotive. It might be a different class, but I'm sure that's what it is. So if I zoom back out again, so as you can see, chapter 2 focuses on Union Pacific. So if we turn the page, we can see we have the contents page just here, and that features all the yards on the Union Pacific which are featured in this book. So we'll just zoom back out again and we'll do a tilt on the camera so that the entire book fits into view. So what I'll do, I'll just choose a particular yard, as I'm sure that will be one somewhere that I can talk about. So I'm just having to kneel behind the camcorder so I'm not squatting, and we'll just find a particular yard to talk about which is in here somewhere. I think I might show you that one actually. So as you can see, whilst I'm flicking the pages, there's absolutely loads of information about all the different yards, but apologies that I can't show you every yard because I think I'd be here all day if I did that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about this one here, Davidson Yard in Fort Worth, Texas. So I'll just have to zoom the camcorder up. So we can see there we have Davidson Yard, Fort Worth, Texas. So obviously we have a bit of information about the yard. So if we take a look at this picture just there, this actually caught my eye when I opened the Book to the Union Pacific page, because obviously with myself being into photography, this is the sort of view that makes a really good picture. So as you can see, we've got the locomotive coming out at the front, or maybe taking the wagons back in. We've got the sorting area, well, the classification bowl as they call it. So if we just tilt the camera slightly over to this direction, so as you can see, we've got loads of Union Pacific locomotives just there. Apologies if the camera looks like it's on a tilt. As far as I know, it isn't. I've tried to level the tripod the best I could to get this entire book in. So if we look there at the description, it says Rogers Road at the eastern end of the Centennial Complex is a quite an easy place to watch the action at Centennial. Here a UP manifest winds out of the departure tracks, while one can also get a good view of the engine house on the right. So as you can see just there, where the locomotives are, oops, a bit of bad focus there. If it'll let me go in just a bit further, it won't, I'll have to just come out slightly. So as you can see, where these locomotives are here, if you look to the right, that's the engine house, just there. So we'll zoom out of that for a moment, and I'll bring the tripod and the camcorder back up again. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to show you, I think, is CSX, so I'll just go to that chapter. I think there's about 100 plus pages in this book as well, so it is quite lengthy. So if you were interested in purchasing it, I suggest you put some time to one side, because it took me well over a week to read through this. As I read a chapter every morning, so it took a while. Okay, so the next chapter is the Canadian railroads. So we have Canadian National and Canadian Pacific. So as you can see here, if I just turn the camera and lift it up slightly, you can see there we have a list of the yards that on the Canadian Railroad section. So what I'll try and do, I'll try and pick one from each. So I'll just move the book back out of view and level the camera up again. So I'll try and find one first that is on the Canadian National. Apologies, it's taken me a while to find one. What I want to try and do is find an interesting one from each chapter. Okay, so that's Canadian Pacific. Let's see if I can find one on Canadian National. Okay, let's choose this one then. Kirkyard at Gary, which is Indiana. So this is the ex-Elgin, Joliet and Eastern Railroad. So if we just take a look at the information, oops, bit bad focus there. So as you can see, it was built in 1952 at a cost of $4.9 million. I was trying to zoom in so we can see a bit more information. It serves 3 major steel works. In 2003, the yard had just 9 retarders.
So it says there, between 2011 and 2013, Canadian National operations in and around Chicago, and most of this money went into a complete rebuild of Kirkyard. The capacity of the yard was increased to 2,500 cars per 24 hours, and the hump was completely rebuilt. So, if we just zoom out of that, and we will just turn the page, but before I do that, as you can see, we've got some information on departures, which is part of the Kirkyard Master Plan from 2013. So as you can see here, we've got a variety of images in the book. So as you can see, it gives you a bit of information about what they've rebuilt. We've got pictures of the control tower. This particular image there, it says, oops, a bit bad focus, so I'll have to read that. It says, wrapped around the northern edge of Kirkyard is the massive US Steel Gary Works. Freight traffic to and from the works is a major part of the workload at Kirk, adding to the already busy manifest interchange traffic. It shows you a pair of locomotives which are hauling a string of empty cars from the works, passing some CXX locomotives from Bar Yard. So, as you can tell, it's quite a busy yard by the sounds of things. And again there we have an overview image. So what I'll do now, I'll choose one from Canadian Pacific. So far we're actually on 17 minutes for this review. I didn't expect it to go on that long. So I'll do the best I can. I mean, if it goes over 20 minutes when it's a detailed review, then so be it. It might just take a bit longer to get it onto YouTube. So what we'll do, we'll take a look at this yard here, which is Agincourt Yard. Agincourt Yard is in Toronto, Ontario. Now, one of my friends is actually from Ontario. Danny, aka Trains Big and Small on YouTube. I'm not too sure which part he's from. I think it's a place called Kitchener, if I'm right. But if you're watching, Danny, and I've got it wrong, please correct me. So as you can see, this is one of the Canadian Pacific yards, and as you can see here, we've got some images of Canadian Pacific, and an overall image there, like an aerial view of the yard. So what I'll do now, I'll turn the, oh yes, there's no more images over the page, that's another yard. But as you can see there, there's a Canadian Pacific locomotive, and in the background you can see there's other wagons, etc. So what we'll do now, we'll move on to CSX, and then we'll do Norfolk Southern. Okay, so the next chapter, chapter 4, focuses on CSX. Now, if we turn the page again, we can see we have a list of yards that are featured in this book. I'll just put the camera on the screen back to normal there. So we'll just choose a random yard, which I can show you. Now the other yards after the Norfolk Southern, I don't think I'm going to show you that one because obviously of the length of the review, and I don't want to bore everybody to death. So what we'll do, we will take a look at this one here, which is Queensgate Yard in a place called, is it I'm going to have trouble pronouncing this one, Cincinnati?
or Kinati. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that actually, but apologies to American viewers. I'm not doing it deliberately. I just can't pronounce that particular word, but it's in Ohio anyway. So as you can see, we have a bit of information about the yard, which is a very detailed read. So Michael Rhodes, who wrote this book, I'll just actually double check. It is it is Michael Rhodes. So when he did his first edition, he wrote to them, all these railroads again, and said, obviously I'm doing a second edition, and they spared their hospitality for him, and they invited him over to different yards. They showed him around and allowed him to photograph. So I think he's been doing this since like the 1990s. So he is a well-known author. But as you can see there, we have an image of a CSX locomotive. And if we just take a look down there, we can see all the cars, as they call them in America, or wagons as we call them over here. Some are all obviously in like the sorting areas. One particular one there is on a locomotive. So, oops, sorry, that was my finger in the way there. That is that one. So what we'll do now, we will move on to the final chapter, which is the Norfolk Southern. Can't get my words out today. So I'll just show you that one quickly. But while we're doing that, I've got to say this book is a really good read. So if you get any spare cash, or you're into this sort of thing, then I highly recommend it to you. So the final chapter is chapter 5. Because of time and other commitments which I've got this afternoon, I'm just going to show you this chapter, because the other railroads are just like the Conrail ones, etc. So I'm just going to show you the Norfolk Southern one as the last one. So as you can see there, on the next page we have the contents of the different yards that Norfolk Southern operate from. So I'll just choose a particular yard. I'm just trying to find one with a bit of information that I could show you. Okay, we'll take a look at this one then. So this particular lard, that's some use for baking. This particular yard is called Lambert's Point. It's in Norfolk, Virginia. And this is where most of the coal traffic runs into, I think. Because if we take a look at that photo there, you can see there's a load of action going on there. And these are absolutely massive. I think it's where the sea meets the land or something. So that says there, this view shows the rotary dumper in action, and as you can see, it is absolutely massive. A rainbow formed as water jets which reduce coal dust to a minimum catches the afternoon sun. In front of the dumper, a pair of empty cars rolls past, having been emptied just seconds earlier, and now on their way to the empty car yard. So obviously they're emptied there, and then they are rolled down the tracks, which I think are these ones here. Yes, they are, and then they're obviously divided into the correct siding area where they're supposed to be going. So as you can see there, we have another image of the coal dumper, as you can see. And as you can tell, it's just a really complex place, that does. I think for your HO modelers, I'm sure it's Walther's Cornerstone make this sort of thing, because I'm sure I've seen it somewhere. So as you can see there, the track is actually going on an incline. The reason for this being, as it says there,
Once cars have discharged their coal in the rotary dumper, they travel by gravity out towards the sea, where an interesting sloping pier slows them to a stop before rolling them back to the empty car yard, entry to which is controlled by a second set of automated retarders. So, that looks really interesting actually. And as you can see here, we've got some more images of the coal dumper. A Norfolk Southern locomotive just there, which is a -9-40CW, which is featured in that description just at the top of the page there. And as you can see here, we have an overall image of the coal dumper, which is a bit out of focus, but it's like this area here, and we've got some ships etc. here. So far we've just gone over 25 minutes on this review, but in a way I'm happy that I've been able to show you the main majority of the book, but obviously because of time and other commitments that I've got this afternoon, this other last little bit is just about other rail yards, so I think it's more like Conrail etc. But I really advise anybody who's interested in American diesels to get this book, because it is really fascinating, and some of the images are absolutely outstanding and all that. Okay, so that's it basically. The North American Railyards hardback book, updated and expanded edition by Michael Rhodes.